What's the best question someone asked an SX ed? If I am in a hot tub with a guy and he ejaculates, can I get pregnant? Teacher. No. Okay, what if I'm in a hot tub with 50 guys and they all ejaculate at the exact same time? Then can I get pregnant? Teacher. What? Why do flavored condoms exist? Because vaginas have taste buds. So the SX ed teacher told us that after a vasectomy a guy still has something like 80 loads still active in him. My buddy looks over at the other teacher and says, I can knock that out in a weekend. We lost it. When the teacher was talking about infertility. That's what you get for scheduling SX ed right after math. Do you put the balls in? If you're having an LSX with a girl and she farts, will your testicles explode? Do girls have butt hair? Male student. I heard cum tastes like almonds. Female teacher. I don't know, I never had almonds. I went to a Catholic, all boys, high school. We used to have SX ed taught to us by our gym instructor who was also a football coach. He used to leave a question box on his desk and anyone that wanted to ask an anonymous question could write it on a piece of paper, fold it up and put it in the box. At the beginning of every class he would randomly select 3 questions out of the box to read. We had all sorts of the normal questions. Can girls get pregnant from an L? How old should I be before I have SX? But the best instance is when he pulled a paper out and read. Without hesitation, sir. You're cute. Class died laughing. If my dick is long enough, can it puncture a girl's stomach through vaginal intercourse and murder her? Yes. Comma teacher. Dot. So all mammals have nipples. But the ones on men are basically superfluous. Now, mammals don't always have 2. Dogs, for example, have 7. Comma student. Raises hand. Oh. Is that why they can hear so well? Comma stunned silence. This is real life. This is also the stupidest thing I have ever heard anyone on this planet say. A friend of mine asked if he could eat cheese while having SX. The teacher just looked at him, paused for a bit, contemplated what she had done wrong her whole life to have reached that precise moment and told him yes. So you grew up in Wisconsin. Can the nipple be bigger than the boob? Dear Lord. Can it? Wasn't an SX ed. But maybe it was asked because we didn't have it at my Catholic school. Psychology teacher. Does anyone know what a Freudian slip is? Student. Isn't that when the penis slips into the girl's butthole on accident? SX ed teacher. SX is not the same thing as love. You love your mom, right? Student. What do boobs taste like? Answer. I disagree. If a girl has her nipples pierced, does the milk come out like a sprinkler? I'm legitimately wondering that now. One student asked, why is an LSX a turn on for lots of guys but not so much for girls? When I was in 7th grade, SX ed, one of the female teachers jokingly said that they wanted to sew up their daughter's vagina to keep them from getting pregnant. My response was to raise my hand and ask, but how would they be? One of the most popular girls in the grade responded, wrong hole. And that's how I learned that girls have 3 holes. Men have 2. This was an auditorium discussion with my entire grade of 300-ish people. I spent the next 5 years with them. Never came up. But I've never forgotten. I like to think I helped all the other guys realize something. Girl. If you put cum in your hair, does it make it shinier? Teacher. What boy told you that? So let's say you go to the bathroom and hold a girl's hand, can they get pregnant then? 100% serious question. Last semester, my financial management teacher was also the SX ed teacher. He was going through the questions and answers he had on his computer while our class was working on some finance project. His computer was connected to the smart board. I briefly looked up from my paper and saw on the smartboard what is penis. It was pretty hilarious when everybody saw it while they totally weren't expecting it, cause it was finance class. Can I give myself an STD from masturbating? Technically. I guess you could if you used a sex toy that someone else has recently used. Can we get a demonstration? Johnny. That's a very inappropriate question. Meet me after class. I need to talk to you. Where does the penis bone go after your boner goes away? The penis bone goes back home to Penn Island where it waits in its little cave until you get another boner. It will come again. Teacher. Anytime semen enters the vagina, the woman is at risk of pregnancy. What if she is on birth control? Teacher. There is still a risk. What if you're having sex and then you released your semen into one girl's mouth and then she passes it into another girl's mouth and then they spit it into each other's vaginas? Can they both get pregnant? Teacher. There is still a risk. Not a question. But our vice principal came in to talk to us and the extent of his safe sex talk was that he washed his dick in the sink before sex. Which none of us really needed to know. Wouldn't have been so bad. But it was in the middle of a math class. In 4th grade they separated all the boys and girls into 2 separate classrooms for the old talk. They presented some diagrams. Obviously there were chuckles around the room and questions were asked like how did Freddie Mercury die? Full stop. After they realized that many of the students thought the entire escapade was a joke, our teacher asked us to write down any additional questions we might have and to pass them forward. I'm guessing as to not waste time entertaining us street smart children. The first question read aloud. What's a boner? And I'll never forget this kid that always got picked on immediately sighed and embarrassingly exclaimed I didn't know you'd read IT out loud. Was so classic. I actually got something. In class we were going over the sperm and the journey to the egg. And one of the reasons the sperm has difficulty to accomplish that was due to the acid inside the vagina. So I raised my hand and asked, well if the vagina has acid why don't girls' fingers get burned off? Full stop. The whole class started laughing and the teacher, which was a guy, had to catch his breath. And that's when I learned about chemistry and the different levels of acid and base. In HS my sex ed teacher was talking about the different ways people have sex. And she got to oral. She went on to tell the class that men's ejaculate is a mixture of proteins and sugars. My classmate asked so is it like sweet? My teacher was half a second from answering till she got red. She was a fairer skinned black lady in the face and just chose to not answer at all. Boy I'd have died if she did though. How come every time I ejaculate my balls shrivel up like a frightened turtle? Is a crisp packet and an elastic band a good substitute for a condom? It was STD day in our sex ed class. To really scare us into abstinence, the teacher passed around pictures of affected genitalia. One picture in particular sparked the question from one of my classmates. EWW. What turned this one black? The guy who had just handed it to her explained for everyone to hear. Haley. Can you get pregnant from swallowing? Or do twins happen because of a threesome? Optimum has some explaining to do. Does a longer penis mean more chance of conception because the sperm has less distance to travel? Saw this on a different thread but I think the consensus was that penis length was insignificant compared to ejaculation force. Is it okay to let my buddy use the same condom after I do? This is the question that should have been asked before a kid actually did it and was later stuck with a child support case with his buddy's girlfriend. The story has heard it. 2 young couples were having a good time with their so's but only had one condom. The first guy, safely, finishes the deed with his girl then gives the used rubber to his buddy who turns it inside out and proceeds with his girl. Safe. Right? Edit. Clear up that buddy one is the one that got stuck with the case. Yes. Paternity test. I wish I could believe that nobody is that stupid. I wish. We had this mildly autistic kid in our class. Super happy, nice, upbeat and everything, always volunteer, a really nice kid. During class when we were being taught how to put a condom on and the instructor asked for a volunteer. No surprise, he volunteers. He saunters up to the front, grabs the condom, starts to unwrap it and asks, "So do I eat it now?" and moves to put the condom in his mouth. The instructor was like, "No, Aaron, please put it on the banana," and very visibly trying to hold back a laugh. He forces it on backwards, blows out the other side of the condom and walks back to his seat with the ripped condom on the banana and keeps it for the rest of class while everyone tries their hardest to not to fall into hysterics. The teacher took it back at the end of class. Kid: why do people make noise, moan while? You know. Teacher: why do people go when they enjoy their morning cereal? I just remember the class freaking out. So we were learning about where AIDS came from and how people first got it when they ate monkeys. So this one kid raises his hand and asks, "Do monkeys taste good?" Yes. Next question. Do guys have to wear pads just in case they ejaculate? 7th grade sex ed. Yes. I asked that question. I have no shame. This is less of a question, but my teacher gave the go-ahead for people to ask whatever question they want before the class started. One person in the back timidly puts their hand up and says UHH. So I just heard this as a rumor. And I don't know if it's true, it might not be, but UHH. Someone told me that if you don't masturbate before the age of 18 you explode. You do. Just not in the way you think. Do black people have black cum? Can you use a Dorito bag as a condom? The teacher was discussing foreplay when one of the students asked, "Does heavy petting make the PSSY purr? If you do it right." Can you actually stick your dick in an ear and have your sex? You know. Like in Family Guy? Is it a dick move to in the girl because the toilet is really far away? By definition I suppose it would. We had a class on STDs and they displayed a picture of a pubic louse chilling on a white background. One of the guys goes, "Wait, that's what crabs look like," and runs off to the bathroom. Because up till then he thought the bugs living in his pubes were just harmless little critters. Is it masturbation or incest if you have sex with your clone? Is it gay to your clone? Why does cum taste salty? It actually has a very metallic taste to it. Like copper. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Do guys have periods? I asked it to show everyone that they don't because everyone said they do and called me an idiot. You. Miles. Honestly. Poor Miles if he's bleeding from his dick every month. A girl in my class asked if sperm was safe to swallow. Our teacher muttered a dosey, "I hope so." He was in his 50s. It was very unnerving. Why did you assume he was the one swallowing? He could have been worried about the health of his boyfriend. Does dick taste like a salami stick? Kid: what happens if you pee in the girl? Teacher: she'll probably hit you. Child: what is an orgasm like? Mr. C: it's like a surge of a really happy feeling and relief for 5 seconds. Is it wrong to masturbate while holding a picture of Jesus? Cue an hour-long lecture from the priest. Totally destroyed any chance of following the lesson plan or anything that day. Catholic school was a blast. Kid: can you get a girl pregnant from coming in her butt? Teacher: no. Kid: thank God. The class just busts out laughing. Can I get pregnant from oral sex? What happens if you take her while it's in? I remember my professor giving my classmate the biggest "Are you I'm kidding me?" look in response. That's exactly the kind of question that should be asked in sex ed. More like the best answer. The teacher, talking about puberty, asked the class something like, "What changes happen to a boy when he reaches his teens?" Comma. To which one kid answered he throws his Lego set away. Do black women lactate chocolate milk? The teacher left the room laughing. SX ed in the late 60s, 6th grade. We were clueless. You learn about what happens in the woman. What happens in the guy. Nothing about how they interact. Finishing the course. Teacher asks if anyone has a question. Nerdiest guy. But brilliant. Has a PhD today. Asks. But how does the sperm get into the woman? Teachers lose it so hard that we started laughing, but we didn't really know why. Minutes later, after the teachers composed themselves, they said that is called sexual intercourse. The first time I had ever heard the term. SX ed in 7th grade. Student. How does SX feel? Teacher. Smiling, it feels nice. Student. Like. Really nice? Teacher. Best student answer from when I was in middle school talking about STDs or something. SX educator, which group of people is most commonly associated with an LSX? Kid, the elderly. So my high school had anonymous questions every class or so. This consisted of people writing down questions. Well, anonymously. The teacher would read them aloud the next class and answer them. However, being high schoolers, most were a little off. Is a solid kick to the stomach a viable method of abortion? If I'm caught masturbating during a test, does that count as cheating? Why did God make me gay? Is a Snickers wrapper an appropriate substitute for a condom? This was read by a visiting expert on birth control. Have you ever gotten a Cleveland steamer while riding a train through Cleveland? Damn. High school could suck, but I sure miss it sometimes. Maybe not the best question, but the best answer. Some kid in my class asked why our penis was called a dick. And the teacher answered, because Richard was too formal. We had a box that everyone could write questions on a piece of paper and the teacher would read them to the class, so it was anonymous. One of the questions was, can you get pregnant from swallowing? I'm sure the original question said cum, but he said, semen. Immediately a girl towards the back of the room began to slouch in her chair. Her face got red and her boyfriend all of a sudden got a huge smile on his face. Is it true that if you punch a girl in the stomach after sex she won't get pregnant? Will we have a practical exam? Definitely an oral one. In sex ed, our teacher had an anonymous question box where the kids could ask a question, and the teacher would then read it aloud and answer it. My friend and I always entered insane questions and signed them with our other friend's name. We'll call him Tom. The teacher never read nor answer them, so we had to revise our writing strategy to where the questions were still crazy but slightly believable. Fast forward to the big day. Teacher takes out the slip of paper, reads it to herself, then says to the class whenever we're all showering, I notice that my dad's wiener is way bigger than mine. Will it ever grow or just stay tiny forever? She looks right at Tom and says something like, your time will come. And my friend and I are just sitting there, struggling to stifle our laughter, red in the face with tears streaming down our faces. TL. DR convinced our teacher that our friend showered with his family. Hilarity ensued. During elementary school, our teacher said we could ask him anything about sex or golf. So my best friend asks, what if we get an erection when we play golf? Everybody exploded in laughter. Teacher. Urine kills sperm. Kid. So if I pee in a girl, she can't get pregnant? Teacher. If you can find a girl that will let you do that. 7th grade sex ed day. Boys and girls segregated. This was asked in the boys section. Q. What is the G-spot? Female science teacher. It's right here. Points to the spot on a huge poster of vagina on the board, and it feels really good when someone stimulates it. Most useful geography lesson we ever had. Edit. My most upvoted comment is about teaching middle schoolers to find the G-spot. This will be buried. But do I have to do this project? It was a project where, in 11th grade, you carry a doll or something around for 2 weeks. She was asking because she already had a baby. Edit. No. She did not have to do the project. In fact, it was pretty obvious as the class went on that her and the male teacher had discussed her situation outside of class because he would always go to her for perspective on things. If white guys have white sperm, do black guys have black sperm? If a guy comes in my mouth, can I get pregnant? And if a Mexican comes inside of me, I'm my part Mexican now? I work in a tattoo shop and the best bad tattoo my co-worker had to cover up was a lower back tattoo that simply said Mexican by injection. Kid. Why is the anus included in the diagram of sexual organs? Teacher. LUHH. Some people. Not exactly what you meant. But after the first sex ed class, my teacher asked me, why aren't you making jokes? I cracked jokes all the time. But not then. The mix of concern and disappointment in her voice was hilarious. Not sex ed, but there was an outbreak of crabs at my high school. We were all marched to the theater, class by class, for information sessions. The principal was an older gentleman and asked, at the conclusion, if there were any questions. One kid raises his hand and the following exchange took place. Student. Are they genetic? Principal. What? Cupping his ears. Can you inherit crabs? Are they genetic? P. What did he say? S. Yelling, are they in your genes? Followed by 5 minutes of the principal laughing his head off. Was more like the best question that never got asked. The class was watching this video about puberty titled What's Happening to Me? Full stop. Animation of a guy on a diving board appeared, followed by him suddenly getting an erection combined with ping sound effects. Right on cue with his ping boner. The quiet guy sitting at the back of the class suddenly stood up. No sign of emotion on his face as he stood there. I thought he was about to deliver a speech or something. He then casually pushed over his desk, sending pencil cases and books flying everywhere. And he fell to the ground. Student 1. What does cum taste like? Teacher, I believe it has a salty flavor. Girl in the back. It does. Much awkwardness ensued. 5th grade. We were allowed to blurt out questions. Teacher talking about how sex means different things to different people. What's it mean when daddy ties up mommy and uses his belt on her like he does on me when I'm trouble? They're having sex but she's getting punished? What does that mean? Are you not? What is doggy style sex? Done. We were watching the old school pregnancy video and when it got to the birthing scene, one of the guys in my class asked, did they not have razors back then? Full stop. Even the teacher busted out laughing. Can you show us how to put the condom on the banana with your mouth? Student. If you like, jacked off and had like cum on your hand, and then you fingered a girl, can she get pregnant? Teacher. Why would jack off when there's a girl there ready to be fingered? I remember asking what a MILF was and getting sent to detention. Student. What STDs can you get from phone sex? Teacher. You can't get street. Me. Hearing aids. Girl asked, what are the medical risks of blue balls? Is it true there can be long-term damage? Teacher. What? No. None. Several guys in the class. Since some animals eat the bag the fetus was in, do humans do that too? Till some people eat their placenta. Question. Is this more so than not? If I ask a girl to have sex with me, and she says no, should I take double negatives into account? My 7th grade sex ed was taught by a nun that clearly had no idea about sex. A boy in the class legitimately asked how gay people have sex, and no one in the class knew. This was in a time frame before an L was mainstream, and the general public perception was that it was gay, and therefore a sign of homosexuality if a hetero man was to be interested in such a thing. I legit believe that no one in the class knew because I looked around to see if anyone was smirking or looking guilty. And everyone had the same open curiosity look on their face. The nun's answer was perfect. Well, I don't know. But I believe that gay men have an extra hole between their anus and their testicles. This didn't sound right to any of us. But none of us knew enough to debate it. I can only imagine that every single boy in the class checked that night. It must have been a massive relief. Especially to the ones who were gay. Not a question. But I remember in 7th grade life science class we had reached the infamous sex ed segment of the course. And the class always seemed one step away from erupting into giggly, pubescent anxiety-fueled chaos. That day came when we were discussing the relevant human anatomy in the nether regions of our bodies. We had an incredibly informative diagram of someone's gooch on the projector at the front of the room. And our cheerful and unshakable teacher pointed to it and asked us, "Can anyone tell me what the name is for the area between the genitals and the anus?" I will never forget when from the back of the class came the words "no man's land." Peyton, if you are reading this. Someone in my class once asked, what if you have to pee when you're inside the girl? Not really sure why this came up, but the teacher had just told us about how semen had no nutritional value, and a girl in class had a puzzled look on her face and asked out loud, "If that's true, why is it so salty?" She was a whole lot more popular after that. Grade 6. One of the boys in my class asked an incredible question. Is there a limit to masturbation? The health professional handled it well. The teachers in class couldn't breathe. Or in grade 8. One of the male teachers, while looking at the female anatomy, coined this eloquent phrase. Kinda reminds you of a cheeseburger. How do daddy long legs reproduce if they're all daddies? Edit. For what it is worth. This came from my friend when in year 10 biology, so 14-15 years old. Edit 2. My highest rated comment is about daddy long leg dick. Fantastic. This wasn't asked in sex ed. But when looking at our browser history we discovered our kid had googled penis science. It cracked me up. I had what I thought was a good question. I didn't understand how vaginal herpes got spread. Unless you are a lesbian. Because it doesn't make sense that a guy could get vaginal herpes. Thus meaning that it only affected straight women. Of course. This was interpreted as yes, gay people can get STDs. As an answer,